You're listening to the Non-Duality Podcast. This is Nick Hyam from thewholenessofexperience.com. Joining me for this episode is Altea Lucrezia Avanza. Amongst other things, Altea is a starseed, spiritual coach, Reiki practitioner, light worker, light language channel, and Ascension energy activator supported by the quantum realm. Altea helps people from all over the world clear their energy fields, claim back their power, release attachment, and ultimately raise their baseline frequency so they can co-create their experience. So welcome to the Non-Duality Podcast, Altea.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super grateful to be here and very excited for our chat.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. So I'm going to start off by reading some quotes from some other interviews you've done, which I feel really speak to the podcast's theme. So you say, when you see everything as part of the one, you don't see anything as external. Nothing is external. We're all part of source consciousness. It's kind of like this infinite lake. And for some time, you are a drop that comes out of the lake and incarnates in humanity. And so we live in polarity. With polarity, we have the good, we have the bad, we have the all. But at the same time, you are still part of the whole lake. So maybe we should kind of go from there, and I'll hand it over to you to go into whatever you feel resonates from those few lines.
So it's important to understand that we have access to everything all the time. So in this explanation, it's kind of like when people say that they have past lives recollections and there's like, I don't know, thousands of people that remember being Jesus, for an example, it's not that all of their souls had that specific incarnation. They're tapping into the collective consciousness of knowledge, which is part of the one, which is part of source consciousness. And because we all come from there and we all are a part of that infinite lake of knowledge, then we all have access to that knowledge all the time. So it's just a matter of understanding how to access it, but we always have all the answers within us for absolutely everything. So it comes down to bringing back the power and the sovereignty within yourself and understanding that, everything is within you and you are co-creating your own reality as well as an extent of that. And to not really as much look for answers outside, but rather go within. Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You used the phrase co-creating, and I'm interested to hear what you mean by that. Co-creating with whom or with what?
Your reality. So aligning with the highest possible timeline. So the way you can do that is actually by, so something that I always say, and people who have been on my channel, there's a lot of people who've been doing this and find it very useful. So what you do is you basically bring yourself to a space where you are in 0-point neutrality, which means that you are everything and nothing all at the same time. So once you're in that space, you are neutral vibration, right? From there, you can become and co-create anything that it is that you want, because you can become the vibration of what it is that you want to attract. Similarly, in the same way, when you're grounded, when you're embodied, when you're anchored, when you're balanced, you're in a space where you can see all the possible timelines and make choices that are for your highest alignment. So there's kind of like two ways here to co-create your reality and to really be in a space where you are abundant, you are happy. Things do flow naturally to you because our natural state is one of abundance. We get, grown up and convinced by consumeristic society that we need to have the external thing to validate this, and we need to have the job and the car and wherever it is. We don't need anything to be happy. We just need to, have the self-love and the self-trust. And once you have that unconditional love towards yourself, then you attract more of what it is that you want. But the trick is to be in a space of want and not in a space of need, because the space of need puts you into polarity, which puts you in a space of lack, which is counterproductive to being in a space of abundance. So using the emotion of gratitude also works really well. Getting up every morning, sitting in the emotion of gratitude for 5 to 10 minutes. I do that every morning because gratitude puts you in a state of abundance, because if you're grateful for everything that you already have, you're going to attract more of what it it is that you want. And if you start your day with the emotion of gratitude, then nothing could really go wrong, because whatever happens, you're grateful for the experience.
We don't always understand why we have certain experiences, and that can cause a lot of confusion and suffering. Like, why am I having this particular life? Why have I chosen, if I have chosen it? And often we don't feel like we have chosen it, it's just happening. And we can feel at odds with it, and we can feel as if life is working against us rather than for us.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's important to understand that we have free will and choice, but we also have lessons that we need to go through. So an example of this would be like, okay, let's say me, Altea, I need to get from lesson A to lesson B because it's pre-contracted that I need to go through specific lessons for my soul's evolution and whatnot. So the way I get from lesson A to lesson B, that's where my free will lies, okay? And how easy or difficult lesson A and lesson B are is also part of my free will. So I can have lesson A, I can be listening to the universe and, you know, like being in high alignment and be a good human and whatnot, and I'll get easily to lesson B, okay? Or I can have lesson A and then, you know, be all over the place and go against, you know, what is meant for me and lie and cheat or whatever it is. And then I won't even probably get to lesson B. I'll actually go back to lesson A. So it's kind of like a fine balance, like it is with everything, but also understanding that we are master co-creator beings. We are infinite beings of light. So we can really co-create, again, our reality. It's so important for people to understand this, because there's been a lot of disempowerment with humanity towards everyone, really, like the masculine, the feminine, like, you know, we just get told, you know, conform and do this and do that. But no, you can be anything. You wake up in the morning, you want to be, make, I don't know, pottery, go and make pottery. I promise you, if you put love and passion in it, it's gonna become something that's gonna help you live as well.
You defined this 0 point neutrality as a place of everything and nothing at the same time. How do we get to that place of 0 point neutrality?
Yeah, so basically you can get in it through deep meditation. So deep meditation would be, it's what the, you know, the sadhus also spend a lot of time there, you know, in this peaceful place, in the space where you're everything and nothing. So yeah, deep meditation, but again, like, it's really quite subjective, because, you know, some people really struggle to meditate, some people you don't. Again, I like to use meditation as a tool, but I want to also really be specific on this. You don't have to be a master meditator to be in a good alignment, to be you know, in a space where you're leading a good life and whatnot. Everyone seems to think that you need to meditate for hours to be in a high vibrational frequency. It helps for sure, but you don't have to. It's not necessarily that you need to do. Being grounded, being embodied, being in the moment. And when you're in that 0 point neutrality, you then bring that with you throughout your day. So everything that you do is consciously and divinely guided, because you are so embodied in the now that you're able to listen and understand and be guided from your higher self, your spirit guides, your galactic family, whatever it is, you know, or God source, you can call it whatever you want, that is guiding you to be the best possible version of yourself. So what helps you stay in 0 point neutrality? Non-reaction, releasing attachment, letting go of what doesn't serve you, and being in a space of objective observation, reacting differently to triggers, to the way you would have maybe reacted. You know, this is kind of like more on a practical level, what you can do, you know. And then everything that brings you back to the five senses will be grounding and embodying. Anything you can smell, taste, hear, feel, and touch. Exercise can be very grounding. Anything that brings you in the moment, anything creative, anything that you're passionate about, painting, anything artistic, you know what I mean? Anything can really be grounding if you're present in the now moment within it. And that's the goal of meditation, to bring you more present in the now moment. So if you're already doing that, you don't necessarily need to meditate as much. I used to meditate a lot more a few years ago. Now that I've reached a baseline vibrational frequency that is higher than what it was then, and I'm pretty embodied on my day-to-day basis, I don't really need to meditate that much. much anymore. I still do my gratitude, I still ground, I still anchor. I've got a meditation pyramid behind me that I use and I sit in when I work, and whenever I need to do anything as well for myself, I'll generally sit in my pyramid. But you get to a point where you don't necessarily need to do it as much. I mean, I've got lots of clients, and I'll never say to them don't meditate. If they want to, like, please, if you want to meditate for 3 hours, do it. Like, it's great, but you don't have to, but it's definitely a tool that helps. So I would say, yeah, doing a lot of these things and taking time for yourself, and understanding that the time that you put into your spirituality, into these practices, is time that comes back to yourself as well. So it's almost like investing in yourself, if you want to see it in that way, and that will definitely bring you in a space where you're in a high vibrational frequency and more embodied and more grounded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is the trajectory kind of ascending to a higher level, like a higher level of density, say, sixth density where there's unity, or even fifth where there's love and light? Where are we going as a collective? What's the path, or is there a path?
So we're going into a high vibrational frequency, but it's going to be lower density. The density lowers as the vibrational frequency heightens. So if you see these kind of like etheric beings and whatnot, most of them don't even have a solid body anymore. From my channelings and from what I understand and from how I work, we've actually already entered the lower tiers of fourth dimensional positively polarized Earth, which means that right now the 3D and the 4D are actually overlapping, which is why time is quite fluid right now. So it's either really quick or really slow. And, there's a lot of timeline shifts and jumps. And what recently happened in the past 2 weeks is we actually had a full timeline integration of two parts of Earth. So we had the one Earth, and then we had all these kind of like pieces of soul fragments of people that came through from this other parallel version of Earth that integrated into Earth right now. So there was quite a big shift and a big jump for a lot of people. So I see us moving into a really positive direction. I mean, a lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are, doing their own process, doing their own work. And not everyone who is on a spiritual path is necessarily, doing this the work on a spiritual level, but might be doing it in other ways, and is also necessarily, in a good alignment. So you don't have to be a master meditator or spiritual person or be on a spiritual path to ascend to fifth dimensional density and high vibrational frequencies. You can be living in the 3D, which is the solid, the solid, the way we are now, but you can still have your vibration in fifth dimensional density and higher up, because your soul and your energy body and your etheric body work differently to what your physical body does. So your physical body is anchored, it's here, it's physical, it's here. Do you know what I mean? But your energy field and your etheric body, your light body, your crystal body, all these multidimensional bodies and parts that you have of self can be navigating into high vibrational frequency, lower density spaces at the same time. So the trick is to actually, the more you do the work, the more you heal your traumas, your triggers, by being grounded and embodied and in 0-point neutrality. The more you do that, the more you start collecting soul fragments, the more you start activating higher parts of yourself and parts of your multidimensional consciousness, because we are all multidimensional. So we exist here, but we exist in, other dimensions all at the same time. So once you understand how to work in the quantum realm, which is the realm that is beyond space and time, which is how the light language works, then you can really, really, really access these higher spaces, and again, be in a space where you're co-creating the life that you want and deserve.
You used the phrase timeline shift or jumps. What do you mean by that?
So timeline shift and jumps can occur on a single level, on an individual level, on a collective level, on a planetary level, on a galactic level. So they can occur on many different levels. It's basically just having different timelines integrate. So if you imagine time being fluid in the quantum realm, okay. So just for the sake of understanding, I'm going to briefly explain how I understand the dimensions. So in first dimensional density, Something just is. And this is just the densities that we live in. This isn't the soul densities of an individual. So that's kind of like two separate things. So in first dimensional density, something just is. In second dimensional density, which would be your 2D, something is, and it has consciousness of being. In third dimensional density, which is where we're living now as solid human beings, something is, it has consciousness of being, it can now take action. However, it is limited by the constraints of time and space. So time is linear, like we see it in the 3D, and space, you still need to walk and move to places. You can't teleport. When you access your fourth dimensional density, which would be your astral plane, your dream realm, which obviously has different layers, the same as the 3D. So you've got your lower tiers from astral and your higher tiers. Something is, it has consciousness of being and can take action, but it's now not limited anymore by the constraints of time. So you can manifest instantly when you're in the astral space. You want a car, it appears in front of you, but you still need to walk to places or fly or move, you know. In fifth dimensional density, there will be no limitation of time and space, so you can quantum jump. So that's kind of like what happens sometimes. It's very fitting that you asked this, because I actually had a very physical timeline shift 3 nights ago, and I posted a reel on it on Instagram yesterday. So I was lying in my bed and I was about to fall asleep, and I was just like focusing on some breathing and just letting go of some thoughts and whatnot. And all of a sudden, it's difficult to explain in words. I'll try. Everything froze, but I'm not talking like sleep paralysis or whatnot. Everything froze in time, and I cannot describe a better way to explain it. My heart also frozen. Everything froze, like everything just froze in me and around me. And then 1 second later, my heart started again and everything started again. So obviously, being like a psychic and connected, I'm like, I tune in and I'm like, what is this? Like, what? And they were like, no, this is, you're experiencing, this is a time jump. You jumped in a different timeline of your reality. What is in this timeline? I don't know. I mean, it felt exactly the same. My room looked the same. Everything was the same. You know what I mean? But something had shifted, something had changed. So it's kind of like when you feel like you put something somewhere and you know that it's there, and then it's actually somewhere else. You know, it might be you putting it and misplacing it, but sometimes you're timeline jumping. And this is going to be happening more and more the more you raise the vibration, and the more we raise the vibration as a collective consciousness, as Mother Gaia and Earth raises hers as well. Because we overlapping with the 4D now, the time is becoming more fluid, so we're going to be timeline jumping more and more. But it's a good thing when it happens, because you're generally jumping into a timeline that is of, you know, a high vibrational frequency. If you're realizing it and it's happening to you, it's a good thing. You're on the right track.
And how do you know when it's happening to you? What are some key signs and indicators?
So on a small scale, it would be these things like maybe synchronicities, seeing like the numbers that you're on the right track, or having, you know, thinking about a song and then it comes on the radio. Again, like I said earlier, misplacing things or whatnot, having deja vus, and things like that. On a larger scale, it would be things like losing your job. Relationship ends, moving house, I don't know, resolving a long lifetime issue with your father, or even, you know, it doesn't have to be negative things, it can be positive things. But generally, when you're shifting quite intensely and you're going through your shadow phase as a human, it'll be more dramatic things first, and then it'll get to the nicer one. But not for everyone. For some people, it's, you know, more like beautiful experiences and whatnot. But sometimes with timeline jumps and shifts, it can be quite intense and dramatic. But yeah, not for everyone.
Yeah. Got another quote here from an interview that you've done recently. You said, what is happening on a smaller scale is also happening on a larger scale. So we just need to look within us to understand what's going on around us. We are infinite. So you can't really contain and define a person by their experiences. We can be anything and we can be everything, anything that we want at all times. We really are co-creative beings of our own reality. There are no wrongs, there are no mistakes, there are only lessons. So it's trusting in not knowing.
Yeah, so yeah, it's really being in that space of unconditional love and trust, and knowing that you are supported. Whatever you do, there's only lessons. There's no really, you can't really go wrong, because if you do something and then it doesn't go the way you want it or expect it, then you don't do it again. sort of thing, you know. And also being in a space where you try to live without expectations, and try to live in a space of non-attachment. So you allow everything to flow, because when you're into that, so there comes a time, I think in everyone, where, but especially if you're doing any type of energy work, or you're working on a collective level, or you're helping, you know, and the people who are listening to this are probably going through their awakening, through their understanding, and they're opening up more to unconditional love, and to seeing, you know, what it is that is happening beyond the veil, and where humanity is going and whatnot. There comes a point where there's a shift. So yeah, I've spoken of, not a lot, but I've spoken about this a few times. You basically understand that it's not about you. It's really not about you. Like it's about a bigger picture. Okay. And when that happens, I mean, I can't define the exact moment when it happened for me. But I know, if I look back, because I think channeled this, because if I look back, I can say, okay, like there was a point where I was working still through my human, and not just in service to source. So if you can imagine people they're either in service to self, which means they are ego-based and doing things for their own riches and gains and whatnot, and there's a lot of them, unfortunately, still on earth. Then you can be in service to others, which is where most people are going to now. So you want to be an assistant. It doesn't mean that you're not taking care of yourself, but you're in service to others. So you don't have to be an energy worker. You can be an architect building houses, and you're in service to others. Do you know what I mean? So there's that. And then there's in service to source, which would be more your like energy workers and channelers and people like that, who kind of like a bridge that that kind of help and bring in the new codes and information and whatnot. So there comes a point where you shift, and you understand that it is beyond you, and there is a bigger picture, because we all kind of get programmed to be in service to self, unfortunately, from the school, from you know, families, even not on a conscious level. Like even if you know, we obviously, I mean, I was brought up from a beautiful family. I was given beautiful values and things like that, and still, like, I went through a phase where I needed to have a lot of ego death, you know, because consumeristic society again brings you to be in the space where you're not good enough if you don't have this, if you don't have that, and whatnot. So I think aiming to be in that space of unconditional love and understanding that we are all connected is a beautiful space to be. And then operating from there, operating and working from the heart center. And I promise you, if you get into that space and you start living in that way, nothing is really going to go wrong. Things are going to align. Doors are going to open up for you, because the universe wants you to succeed. You are supported. You are abundant, you know. And the only blockages that stand in your way is yourself, literally. Yes, there's lessons, but lessons don't have to be harsh. They can be easy, you know. They can be easy if you are in a space of unconditional love and understanding, and you accept things for what they are.
Maybe we could get into a bit about you and your past and your various timelines, and what's led to you doing what you're doing now, and how now you're in a space of service to source rather than service to yourself. And I know that in this lifetime you've had some challenging lessons of your own, and what with traumas and losses and addictive behavior, and obviously where you were back then is nothing like where you are now. And I'm interested to hear about that shift, and yeah, what's led to you doing what you're doing.
Yeah, so I feel like I've led 1,000 lifetimes just in this one, actually. So I mean, I had psychic vision and intuition from when I was a child. So I would be one of those kids that, you know, would go to the parents at night. I can't sleep. There's shadows in my room, and I'm seeing people, and I didn't get believed much. And now that I'm, you know, I do this for a living, everyone came back to apologize, like, "Oh, we're sorry," and I'm like, "Yeah." But I had that, and I think what happened with me, it became very overwhelming. So it became very overwhelming to like be so connected and feel so much, you know, so I kind of shut it off a bit as a child. Then I started doing a little bit of kind of like tarot work in my teens and things like that. And then around like my mid-20s, I started like, you know, like partying and drinking alcohol and experimenting with things. And I wasn't really taking care of my body. Like I wasn't, you know, I wasn't in the best possible space in a mental way as well. And then I had like almost like a near-death experience at 27. So I was hospitalized, emergency. I had to have 2 operations, and that really like was like, well, okay, that was like a big thing, you know, because I'm like I'm 27, like I don't really want to die, like maybe I need to change something of what's going on in my
Mm.
life. So then I stopped like drinking and partying and taking substances. And what happened is everything started opening up like a lot, like exponentially, like everything started really, really opening up. I had about, this is now back in 2017, 2018. I had about 3 to 6 months where I couldn't really, like I was functioning. I had like a part-time job, but I couldn't really do much because all I was doing was I was receiving and downloading information all day, every day. I was just receiving information, how the geometry worked, how the planets work, how things work. And I don't have any basis in like physics or science or anything like that. Everything that I understand and how the quantum realm works is channeled or understood, you know, from my own perception. So I kind of had that going on for a while. And I remember I was like, how am I gonna ever function again in like normal society, you know, because it was quite intense. And at the time, like it wasn't a thing, you know. I had a friend who had gone through it about a few years before me, so I was very grateful to be able to communicate with her. So that happened. Then there was a story of basically just after that happened, then my channel opened, and then I started channeling light language, and I started posting videos back in 2018 when there were like maybe 10 light language channelers online. Now there's like thousands of them. So I started quite early, and I remember being quite scared and being like, oh my God, what are people going to think and whatnot? Actually, it was great. My work went to who needed to hear it, and people who didn't understand it just ignored it, which is still fine, you know. But the people who understood it really benefited from it. And I thought that even if I put out a video, even if it only helps one person, then I'm going to be happy about it. You know what I mean? So I didn't really have any attachment to it. And that's kind of like also why it grew in that way. So I did that, and then basically I ended up in a relationship with the father of my child, who was actually abusive. So when I was 4 months pregnant, he tried to murder me, strangle me. And so I had to call kind of like police to get him away and get him out. I knew that he had to be the father of my child. There was a pre-contracted agreement between me and him. Between me and him. But I knew that he wasn't going to be a man present in my life for long. I didn't know how it was going to pan out, because they can't tell me everything, because I still need to go through the lessons. But I knew a few things. I knew the child had to come through. I was only with him for like a few months. And we were only in union to make the child, basically. So it was quite like an interesting story. I've got a few videos on my YouTube channel where I speak about this in detail. I don't want to go into too much detail because it's long. So I'm just going to explain. So anyway, and then when that happened, that year, well, those months, I was broke, in debt. I had just come out of an abusive relationship. I was pregnant. I had no job, no money. It was full COVID lockdown. So there was no way of me even finding a job. I had lost my job that I had before because I was running big events. And I couldn't do that anymore because everything got shut down. So I was really in like a low space. Obviously, I was grateful because I had just gotten out of this experience, and I had a baby that was coming, and I had my family. So I was living back at home with my family. And then, yeah, so that was my biggest ego death. I lost everything. possessed nothing. I had no control over my body, I had no control over my finances, no control over my job and my work. And I was still able to actually be grateful. So then from that, I then started building, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because then I moved my business online. I had a Reiki studio before, I had to obviously close that as well. And to moving my business online completely, I had already the basis. So I'd already had the channel on YouTube and Instagram. So I was already posting light language art that had been coming through since 2018. So this is now 2020 when all of that happened to me. And yeah, and then slowly rebuilding through that. It took me about a year to move through all the trauma and release and let go and not having the attachment and be able to speak about it. And then it was quite interesting because someone heard of my story in Johannesburg, which is about a 3-hour drive from where I stay. It's a local TV production, and this one girl, she had made a post on Facebook and asked if anyone had stories where they thrived through the COVID. And I said to her, well, actually, this is what happened to me. COVID was a blessing because it saved my life. Maybe if they didn't have COVID or the lockdown, my ex wouldn't have gone so psycho, and I would have carried on with him for like years. Do you know what I mean? Who knows,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? So they came and they interviewed me, and that was very, very healing for me to tell my story on camera, because I hadn't before that. This was about a year after it happened. And then through that, I started building more and more and more. And I also want to say that I'm very grateful to my guides and my higher versions of self, because I can't really take credit for everything that I do. Everything that I do is divinely guided. Yes, I'm here. I'm a human, you know, living my human experience, but my gratitude goes to my team that has supported me and helped me, and through this day divinely guides me in everything that I do. And I really try to just teach from the heart and from my own experience. And I think I'm good at what I do because of what I went through. And I do get a lot of women who've come out of abusive relationships as well, and a lot of people who struggled, you know, with self-love and non-attachment and things like that. And I was also told that it was necessary for me to go through all of this in order for me to be an embodied energy worker now, because now I've been through those darkness and shadow parts and whatnot, and I've come out on the other side. I've built a successful business. I'm a single mom, you know, I'm very happy where I am with my life and whatnot. So I just help people to, you know, find that within themselves as well.
Yeah. I've got another quote here from another interview. You said, nothing will be given to you to have to deal with that you cannot handle. The universe is always conspiring in your favor. It's not trying to block you, it wants you to succeed. You're naturally born abundant.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have this sense of higher, higher self, or they may feel connected to another timeline somehow, like like another density, and yet find themselves kind of in this mostly third dimension where there's a lot of suffering and a lot of kind of solidity and contraction and tightness and heaviness, and the whole dualistic play of life, desire, fear, grasping, aversion. So how to make peace with your present timeline?
Well, if you don't like it, you can change it. You master
Okay.
co-create being. So if you don't like where you are, you can change it. You obviously have to take action. Like the universe, I mean, it's kind of like you know, you want a better job. Okay, the universe will help you, but you still need to go out and look for the job and apply for it. It's not just gonna, you know,
Mm.
fall out of the sky, the offer. So it's kind of like even in that, it's a balance. It's a give and take where your attention goes, your energy flows. If you understand that there's kind of like this balance of energy always and around you, and you know, again, let's say you want a better job, or you want I don't know, something in your relationship to change and whatnot. You put your energy into that, and if it's for your highest alignment, it's going to work. If it's for your ego base, no, you can't manifest a Ferrari in front of your house tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Like that's not how it works. It needs to be for the highest alignment. Okay. So if it is for the best and for your greatest good, then it's going to work. I think like being in a space where what I do every morning is I just ask to release everything that doesn't serve me. So I heard this very powerful thing that someone said today. I was scrolling through Instagram and I heard this guy say, he said, which makes a lot of sense, like that's what I also say, but he said it very clearly. He said, people are trying to constantly raise their vibration and raise it and raise it. And yes, that works, but it's not really about that. It's more about letting go of what's holding you down. So if you let go of that, automatically you're raising your vibration because you're getting lighter and you're moving higher. So if you don't like the way your life is, change it.
Let go of what's holding you down. Yeah, I love that.
It's being in a space of non-attachment. So not having expectations. Obviously you can have a little bit of expectations in a good way, but not, it's kind of like in Hinduism, they say that the root of all suffering is expectations. So when you expect something and it doesn't go the way that you expect it to go, then you get upset. But if you expect nothing and take everything as a blessing, then how can you be upset, I think it's obviously harder when it comes on a practical level, and letting go of relationships, and especially things like death and grief. And it's obviously it's hard. If it were easy, everyone would be in a non-attachment mode, but it gets easier.
Yeah, the root of all suffering is expectation. Yeah, because often we're resisting what is, aren't we? I think as a default, we're pushing against, and we're trying to get what we think we need, grasping an aversion, and we're expecting something, but from fear, not manifesting it from love.
Yeah, I think it's just important to remember that we're human beings and not human doings. And sometimes we need to just actually stop and be, and we will be taken care of if we follow our heart, if we follow our passion, if we stay in our truth, if we speak our truth, and set our boundaries, and be in a space of unconditional love for the self, because that's another problem. People are like, oh, but I'm helping and I'm an empath and I'm this and that. Yes, but are you putting yourself first? You cannot pour from an empty cup. Do you know what I mean? If you're not taking care of yourself, if you don't have the self-love, if you don't have the self-trust, your environment is going to reflect it. Your environment is a production of you. Everyone that comes in your life is a mirror and reflection of you. If you're attracting abusive partners, there is still trauma within you that needs to be healed, because they are clearly vibrating at the frequency of that, and so are you. You cannot match in a union with a partner who is abusive if you don't have any more trauma. But if you still have that trauma, if you feel like you're not good enough, I'll just use the abusive partner because it's just a simple example, but it can apply to anything. But if you don't think you're good enough, then you're going to attract someone that also doesn't think that you're good enough. So how do you get into that space of self-love? You do things for yourself. Take yourself on a date. Set your boundaries, speak your truth. If you want to say no, say no. Understand that you are in control of your own actions, thoughts, and emotions. You cannot control other people's. If you're speaking your truth and you're saying something from the heart and someone else gets upset, that's not your fault. That's not your problem. They are choosing to get upset. And if they come and say, oh, you've upset me. No, I haven't upset you. You're upsetting yourself. I can't make you upset. It's your emotions. You know what I mean? And a lot of people pleasing, they don't want to make people unhappy because they're scared. They don't want confrontation. They don't want to argue. You can't. They're making themselves unhappy. So it's a mind perception switch that really, really helps in changing the understanding of things.
Maybe we could talk a little bit about trauma and about how you've healed your trauma. I know you've spoken to that somewhat already, but it'd be good to go into that some more.
When I assist in healing past life traumas in clients, which I do quite a lot, it's very interesting because sometimes I do something that is called soul fragment retrieval. So what happens is sometimes, so we very whole, we're not fragmented, just so that everyone knows you whole, you sovereign and whatnot, you're not broken. But sometimes it happens in past life experiences that you die maybe in a traumatic way, or you get, I don't know, whatever, something happens to you. and you lose a soul fragment of yourself. So then when you do past life healing and recollection, that soul fragment comes back into you. And then through that, you can activate, psychic gifts or other parts of self. So it is kind of like a reintegration process. When it comes to this lifetime, so I find that it's not the trauma itself, but it's the reaction that we have to the trauma that causes the disconnect. So the being like the emotion, actually, the being frantic or getting angry, or the reaction that we have to it. So what you can do is you can deprogram yourself to have a different reaction. That's how you heal the trauma. That's how you neutralize the timeline and the karma within it as well. So what you can do is, let's say, what I did in the example of my abuser, I sat for months and I sent him love and I sent him healing and I sent him forgiveness. Doesn't mean I've forgotten what he's done to me. Doesn't mean I'll ever let him have access to myself or my child, but I've forgiven him. I don't hold anger because the anger would only hurt me. It took a while. You know what I mean? So that would be an example. Another example of deprogramming that I did, this is one that I love to use because, so I'm Italian, I come from an Italian family, and Italians are very loud, like they shout. Like it's not like a secret, did you know what I mean? And I would find myself when I was younger to be in relationships with masculines and end up shouting at them. And I thought that was normal. Until I realized that it's actually not. And so I deprogrammed myself from it. And then when I saw my mother and family, not my father, but my mother still doing it, I saw where it came from. And then I assisted her in her own deprogramming as well. So it can help when you look at parents when it comes to programs and things like that. I think, different ways to heal different trauma. There's trauma release exercises where you clear on a physical level as well. But generally, I would say, reliving it, sending love, sending healing, even to the experience, to the inner child, and things like that. Crying is a really good release. There's a lot of ways that you can heal, or you can go to a professional energy worker like me or someone else, and they will assist you and move you through it as well. Remember, obviously, you doing your own healing, we just holding space for you to do your own healing. We're accelerating the process a bit, but it's you doing the healing within yourself anyway. So I guess those would be different ways. I think plant medicine also can help. I'm a little bit kind of like weary of it. I do think it's a bit abused and misused these days as well, but I've seen it do really, really good benefit with people with very deeply rooted trauma and things like that. But it comes down to sitting with the uncomfortable emotions, I would say. And understanding, that you are not your emotions. So if you're feeling fear, pain, anger, resentment, move through it. Don't wallow in it. Don't get absorbed by it. Allow it, release it, and let it go. Don't get attached to it. You are more than your emotions. You are not just your own emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Because we say I am angry, and when we say I am angry, what we're saying is I am anger. We believe that we are the emotion. We're identified with the emotion. And we're also identified with our thoughts, aren't we? We believe that we are our thoughts, but in truth, we're the awareness of them. We're the awareness of the emotions, the awareness of the thoughts. And emotions and thoughts, they're a part of what we are, but they're not our entirety. What we are in entirety is self, is awareness, the awareness aware of all that is. And coming into that knowing, coming into that alignment with being awareness rather than being the contents of awareness is where the liberation and the freedom is. But then there's still work to do. There's still work to do to, as you say, to deprogram and to reintegrate. I think a lot of people in the spiritual community kind of want to get to pure awareness and pure light without doing the work, the shadow work. And, I think a huge dose of patience and self-compassion is needed.
I think the universe will show them that the work needs to be done. This is what I've learned in my own. I've seen so many people and they go and now they've opened they've done psilocybin once, and all of a sudden they're shamans, and now they know everything, and now they want to teach everyone everything. I find that you don't have to do anything. The universe takes care of itself, and the lessons will come when they need to come. I do believe that it's important to address the false light phenomenon, because there are a lot of people there out there that are, not living in alignment with what they are teaching. So they might be channeling or doing energy work and whatnot, and then they're going home and drinking alcohol and poisoning their body, or lying to their husbands, or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? It comes down to the individual's own discernment as well, whether you want to go to someone for help or whatnot, and to their lessons. Everything is serving its purpose within polarity. I would say be mindful of anyone who puts themselves above you, anyone who says they're any kind of like guru or ascended master or whatnot, anyone who says that has all the answers, and anyone who says that, they're better than you and it keeps you like hooked or whatever it is, and also anyone who has too much attachment to identity. I find that that's quite like a sign of ego as well. But again, the ego is necessary. It just needs to be integrated in a healthy way. You can't really not have the ego. It's what keeps you anchored here in third dimensional density of reality. So I think like there's a big there's a big thing in the community with all the plant medicine and whatnot. Some people are doing beautiful work out there and are really healing the planet and healing the connection to Mother Earth and whatnot. And I'm really grateful for them for what they're doing. And some people are, doing things in a way that is more aligned for them. But yeah, it's all part of the experience. It's all part of the polarity, and it's all part of the lesson of the individual who goes there, or who has the lesson, or who is living the experience. My advice would be, if something feels off, it's off. That instinct tells even if you're there like about to do the ceremony and all of a sudden you feel weird and you don't want to do it, leave. I promise you, it's going to save you more money what you spend for the ceremony than having to go to energy workers to get decording done. Because I've had to decord a ridiculous amount of people that come from these ayahuasca ceremonies or mushroom ceremonies that are riddled with implants and cords and things that are draining them from these other energy workers who don't know how to hold the space, who are not working in an ethical way, who are not gridding, they're not shielding, they don't know what's in their field, and they're taking people through medicine without having the qualifications, the basic, the training, or anything like that. So I promise you, if your gut feeling tells you it's off, it's generally off. So that's the best advice that I can give to people who are still learning and understanding where it is that they're going. And it's fine, not everyone is going to resonate with everyone's work. It doesn't mean that the energy worker is not doing good work if you don't resonate with it. That's okay. But yeah, just feel what resonates for you and what feels comfortable and good in your heart center for you.
Absolutely. I always say follow your resonance. Your resonance is your guru, your inner guru. And if you resonate with something, it's your inner guru telling you this is right. And ultimately, there's no right and there's no wrong. But we do experience in this particular version of reality, right and wrong, good, bad, duality.
I think it's important to be careful with the words that we speak as well. Like whenever my clients come to me and they're like, oh, like I'm broke. No, you're transitioning. No, you're recalibrating. You want to use words that speak into existence what is happening. If you're telling yourself you're poor all the time, you're probably going to be poor. Do you know what I mean? If you're telling yourself, I'm not saying that you can tell yourself that you're rich all the time and, fake it till you make it, but to an extent, the universe doesn't really know the difference if you're kind of like joking or if you're serious. Do you know what I mean? So speaking into existence what it is that you want, or where you want to be and whatnot. This is why I like to say that there's lessons and no wrongs really. And there's, yes, you can say there is good and there is bad. I like to see everything in terms of vibration and frequency. So there's lower vibrations and there's higher vibrational frequencies. That's kind of like how I see it. But yeah, everyone chooses their own experience and understands and sees things in their own way. But I think once you start addressing things from a different perspective, then watch the reality shift and change.
Mm. Mm. And I guess it's about being open to that shift and that change, and again going back to not having expectation.
Yeah, because if you don't have expectation, then everything comes as a blessing. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
So you mentioned this is a bit of a shift of theme, but you mentioned you've got a child and you also have another child, right?
Yes, I've got a hybrid child. By hybrid child, I mean I only have one human child on
Yeah.
this earth, and then I've got a hybrid child. So basically, what happened with me is I started getting taken up on ships from when I was like 3 months old. I still get taken, not as much anymore. So I had some DNA taken from me, and this was pre-contracted before I came here. I agreed to assist on this level. And then back in 2019, I had this vision and meditation of this hybrid human that came to me. He's a boy. He had like dark hair and kind of like a humanoid face, but the skin was a bit more kind of like greeny gray, and his eyes were a lot bigger. And he told me that he was my hybrid child, made from my genetics that were taken from me when I was like 3 or 4 months old or something like that. And yeah, and I know that he's there, and I haven't really been much in contact with him since. I know that he's up on a ship. He must be, I think maybe like 12 or 13 now. I think he was like 8 or 9 when I first saw him. So that was quite an interesting experience that I had. I do occasionally get taken up for so they don't really do like testing on me. It's more kind of like upgrades that they'll do on my system and energy field. I don't think I've got contracts for any more children. I think it was just the one. But you know, who knows? I don't really, yeah, not really. So I'll have times where I'm like, actually, no, tonight I just want to sleep. Can you leave me alone? And then that's it. But it doesn't really happen that often. Generally, what happens is my astral body will be worked on quite a lot. But that's like, yeah, a different set of kind of like experience as well. But yeah, I do have this boy that that came to me a few times. So it's quite interesting to see what different things can happen out there. Yeah.
Mm. But you seem like a really open person anyway, because I was just thinking that that must have been what, quite shocking to realize that, to recognize that, and to, then to kind of reconcile that with this particular life.
Yes and no. I mean, I had a hectic experience back in 2018. Oh yeah, I forgot to add this in my list of like awakening experiences. I had three. Okay, so basically I was in Milano in this was September of 2018. And so I'll never forget. This was the most terrifying thing that ever happened to me. I was in bed and I couldn't sleep, and I was on the bottom floor of, like, it was like a house, and it was on the bottom floor, but it was like a secure complex. So I slept with the door open of the window. So the window was a door and I slept with it open. Anyway, long story short, I couldn't sleep. And there was no reason for me not to be able to sleep. Because I just, like, I was tired. I had a normal day. The next day I was flying back to South Africa. But let's say I relapsed like a week or so before, and I drank alcohol because I had stopped drinking already. Not that I wasn't an alcoholic. I drank, like, like I'd get drunk like you do in your mid-20s and whatnot. So I just decided to quit it because I was doing energy work and whatnot, not because, Anyway, so I had a little bit of sort of, maybe relapse is not the right word. Anyway, I drank some alcohol, which lowered my vibrational frequency. Anyway, long story short, I then eventually managed to fall asleep. It's like 3 o'clock or something like that. And so I have very active astral space. I have had since I was a child. I get taken around the world. I clear hold buildings. I do energy work on people. Like, I'm very active in the astral. I'm very conscious. I'm very lucid. I always know what's going on. Okay, so anyway, so I get so I'm running and I'm running away from aliens. I'm like, I know they're going to come get me. I know they're going to come and get me, and something's going to happen. And all of a sudden people start like dropping dead next to me as I'm running through this crowd. And then I hide under this table. And then all of a sudden I start feeling like my lower back gets physically prodded. So I get slammed back into my body in the bed. So, and then I pull my head up, and I turned to the left side, and there was a wall, and in my face, there's a gray being looking at me like 20 centimeters from my face, in between the wall and the bed.
Wow.
I get physically, yeah. And this was like 3 seconds, like I saw this thing, like I saw it. It was there, you know what I mean? Then I get physically pushed back into the bed. And then I hear leaving through the window. I hear noises, I hear things leaving through the window. And I'm drenched in a pool of sweat, you know. So then I kind of get up, and it takes me like, the first thing I do, I go and I close the window, and then I get back in bed and I shake for about 2 hours. It takes me 2 hours to get the courage to go to the bathroom and pee. Like, I was absolutely terrified. I was like, but I knew what had happened to me, because I knew these things were going on, and I had I started reading up on aliens and reptilian beings when David Icke was writing books in the 90s. Like, I was like 10 years old and like reading stuff from David Icke. And when the internet arrived, then I was, you know, searching. So I knew that this stuff was going on and whatnot. I needed that perception shift, I think, to see that it was real, because I'm the kind of person, like, if I don't see it, I don't know if I'm going to believe it that much. Do you know what I mean? So I had to see it. So then basically what happened is, I obviously didn't sleep anymore. I got on a plane, flew back to South Africa. Shay, my partner at the time, thought I was going mad, because every night I had PTSD for weeks. I had to like close all the doors and the windows, and I was scared that people were going to come in the house. Anyway, so I did what every normal person would do. I found a hypnotic regression therapist to send me back. And I think I asked about 5 or 6 hypnotherapists, and I said to them, this is what happened to me. Can you help me? I think 3 of them were like, what? The one was like, yeah, I help people to stop from smoking. I'm like, no. And then the 5th one, she had been a psychic for 10 years. So I said, you the one for me. So I went to her. She took me back then. And then what I did is I went back as my higher version of self. So she took me back into the quantum realm. And what I did is I stood over and I saw there were 3 different beings. They were little gray beings. They were wearing kind of almost like a thing over their like over their back. They almost looked like insectoid cockroach. It was quite disgusting, the vibration they gave off. Anyway, I went back as my higher version of self, and I said to them, I addressed them, and I said to them, you need to leave. You cannot be here. All 3 of them turned and looked at me. Okay, so they looked at me and they were like, panic, and they were like, okay, like, this isn't supposed to be happening. How is she in bed and here? They're like, she's not supposed to be accessing the quantum realm. This is not what we signed up for. We need to get out of here. They were like, we cannot be seen like this. This isn't how it's supposed to be, right? So then they left. So that to me was really like empowering, because I was like, wow, I was actually able to go back and save myself, and, you know, and like tell these beings to leave. So obviously after that happened, I was like, well, if there's bad beings and there must be good ones, why don't I connect with the good ones and see what they can do to help? You know what I mean? So that was after having had that experience. Now I'm just like whatever can come to me, I'm not really scared anymore. Do you know what I mean? That took like all the fear away from me. You know, but also like higher vibrational frequency beings, they don't really you need to kind of raise your vibration to go to them. I have had holographic kind of like, I've seen lion beings in their kind of like military form, but it's always through a dimension. It's not in the 3D. It's too dense for them to come and manifest themselves here, so but anyway, what I then found out was that I mean, obviously it was contracted for me to have that experience, but it's not like they were looking for me specifically. They're actually going around and looking for people who were easy targets, for them to do whatever it is that they had been doing on people at the time. And it was funny because I remember the dogs going mad and barking, and it was quite an interesting experience that I had. And that happened. So I guess after that, and I mean that every time I encounter beings and whatnot, it's like I'm not in a vibration where anything can really be allowed to affect me in a negative way anymore. But I did have I've had many experiences with reptilians also in the astral realm, where I've had to kind of like fight them off with light and whatnot. And every time I ask, they say to me, that I'll say to them, why are they allowed in my vibration? They say to me, no, they say to me, it's not your vibration. It's because you need to go through the experience to then relate on a collective level and say to people, this is what happened. This is how you can fight them. This is what you can do and whatnot. So that's kind of like how I navigate it now.
Wow. I mean, so you really are in a space of fearlessness because you've seen all that and you've conquered that and you're still here.
Yeah, I'm not scared. They must come. If they want to come, they must come.
Mm, mm. Yeah. And talking about fear itself, I mean, it seems that our greatest fear is death, fear of death, fear of being annihilated. And then the kind of the opposite of that is desire, like grasping for what we think we need, as a way to push against that fear. Um, how how do you help people work with fear?
So I help them in the way that I ask them, first of all, what they're scared of. And then I make them imagine, okay, so let's say they're scared of losing their job. Just an example, what are you most scared of? Oh, I'm scared of losing my job. I can't support my children and whatnot. So I say to them, okay, so put yourself in that situation where you've lost your job. Make a backup plan and have a backup plan so that if that happens, then you've got a backup plan and you don't really have to be scared of it anymore, sort of thing. That's just a practical example of what I would say to someone, like, oh, this is what I'm scared of, sort of thing. So going into the fear and kind of counteracting it and being like, okay, and then sometimes the universe, your worst fears will happen to you so that then you're not scared anymore. And then you can go on and embody what it is that, and remembering that pain and fear and all these kind of like really, well, what happens to you when you're in fear and in pain and whatnot, they open the heart more as well, like grief and sorrow, they'll open up your heart more. So once you've gone through that, then you've done it, it's part of the lesson, it's gone. I think every emotion serves a purpose. Even anger in itself, it serves a purpose. We just don't have to have attachment to it. I think like with fear, it's quite an interesting one. I mean, I don't really have fear of anything that I can think of, because I know that I am fully supported and trusted. Okay, maybe because I'm still human, I'll probably be scared when it's time for me to die. I don't think that ever goes away, or if it does, maybe by the time that I will die, when I'll be old, I won't have it anymore. I don't know. But if they say to me, you're going to die tomorrow, I'll probably also be a bit scared, But I also know within me that it's just a transition. So once you understand, like people who are scared of death, they're scared because they think that it's the end and they don't want it to end. But when you understand that there's more and a lot more that goes on, and that happens, then you're not really scared anymore, if it makes sense. So I think like with every emotion, it's subjective to what it is that brings the person fear, and then going into it. I mean, even like shock therapy can work. Hey, you know what I mean? Like, you're scared of spiders, get one as a pet, and then watch your fear go away, So I guess there's
Yeah.
different ways for different people.
Yeah, life will keep showing you what you need to see, what you need to integrate, for sure. And that can happen in this lifetime, and it can happen over countless lifetimes. And you yourself, you've experienced a lot of lifetimes on Earth, right?
Oh, thousands. I'll do cycles, maybe even tens of thousands. I'll do cycles. So I'll stay here maybe for like 1,000 years, then I'll go off on like maybe some planet and work there for like, I don't know, 500 years. Then I'll come back in for another 1,000 years. Then I'll go off somewhere else for another 2,000 years. So I've had many, many lifetimes on Earth. I've been here with ancient Atlantis. I've lived in Lemurian times. I've lived in Egyptian times. I've lived like medieval times. I've lived in like, I don't know, Amazonian forests as well. So the way how I understand how it works, well, this is how my recollection and memory came back. I started first healing my traumas in this lifetime, so as Altea on Earth right now. And then after that, I went into past lifetimes on Earth as a human. Sorry, then after that, I went into past lifetimes on Earth as a non-human, and then past lifetimes off Earth as a non-human, so as a galactic being and whatnot. So that's kind of like the reverse order when I started like seeing and understanding. When I downloaded the information of one of the falls of Atlantis, I cried for about 2 hours. There's a drawing, if you go in my Instagram, that I posted back in 2018, 2019. Maybe I'll repost it again because it's been a while now. Let's make a note of that. That shows basically the fall of Atlantis and how I saw it. And there's kind of like these machines coming down from the sky and these people running anywhere and these volcanoes erupting. And it was very, very intense when I healed that. So by having download recollection of these experiences to an extent, you're automatically also healing them. So when you're seeing and observing this past life of yours, it can also be in the dreams, you can also have it in the astral space. You're kind of healing it as well. So it's important to understand that too. But yes, I've had many, many different lifetimes. I'm trying to think when I started remembering them. I think on and off, even in my childhood and growing up, I would get like glimpses of understandings. Like I've had red hair for like hundreds of lifetimes. This is why it's red in this lifetime. It helps me to ground and to stay anchored. So this is why I've had this hair since I was probably like 14 or 15. Everyone who knows, I had like 1 or 2 years where I was blonde, just for a little bit of a change, but I'll probably be 90 and still have red hair because I've had it like this for so long that, you know, I don't have attachment to it. If tomorrow they say to me, you can't dye your hair anymore, then I'll be fine. I'll still, you know, be a happy human and be happy to do what I do. But it does help me. It does serve a purpose because I do get asked a lot, you know, people are like, oh, but why? And it's like, well, it does helps me with grounding and staying anchored because, you know, being red, the color of the root chakra, and me, you know, working in these vibrational frequency spaces, like sometimes 15 hours in a day. I need to kind of like, where I can, I'll ground, you know. So yeah.
And do you have clear memories and recollections from your previous lifetimes? Like I saw in one of your interviews that you've lived as a mermaid, and that seemed to be quite a clear recollection.
Yeah. So basically what happened in that lifetime, it's quite interesting. I accessed that lifetime in a session with a friend. And as I accessed that, I reintegrated the soul fragment within my throat chakra. I was actually going through a deep throat clearing, and that opened a different light language for me, and actually the ability to sing as well, which I didn't really do much before. And then what happened back in, I think it was last year. Yes, about a year ago, I was told to go. So I get told to go around different parts of the world or of the earth, and I do grid work. I'll work on the ley lines, I'll activate, I'll bring in light, I'll work on the land, I'll do different things. So other than my collective work that I do online with the people and the healings that I do there, I do planetary and grid work as well. So I was told to go to this space, which was in Mozambique, actually. on a beach at this event, and I wasn't told why. And when I got there, I was told, this is where you were massacred. You need to heal the lifetime here for you and for, I think it was like 400 or 500 other mermaids that were there as well that were massacred. And one of the girls who was at the event with me was present in that lifetime with me as well. So I did some great work and some healing, and I brought in some light, and I assisted the land in that aspect as well. So I had quite clear recollection of that lifetime. Yeah, if people want to tune in, it's important that you ask. And I think when you feel like a resonance with something, so I don't know, let's say you have a passion for I don't know, medieval horse riders. You probably were a medieval horse rider. Do you know what I mean? Or you have like an incredible attraction to, you know, you're an American person and you have an attraction to China, I don't know, Chinese medicine or whatever. You probably had lifetimes there as well. So that's kind of how it manifests and represents itself to you. So finding out where your interests are and then, you know, going from there. You can access your own information anytime. You just need to kind of like know how to and be in a space where you're able to receive. If you're too busy worrying about the past or the future, you're not going to be present in the now, so you're going to struggle to interpret what is being sent to you. But ask your guides. Like, everyone has a team that's assisting them, you know, but if you don't ask them, they cannot help you. There is something that is called the law of non-intervention, which means that if you don't ask them, they can't help you because it would be going against your free will. So it's really important. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. When you want to speak to your guides or your higher version of self, just ask them to come and help you for your day. And even if you don't know who they are, they will definitely come and assist you. Sorry.
Bless you.
I'm clearing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So on that note of clearing, what are some ways that we can clear and release? I know from watching your other interviews, you often like burp quite a lot.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different with me because I clear for a living. So the way that I clear is going to be a bit different. Yeah. So I'll clear burping, coughing, sneezing, yawning, shaking, sometimes peeing. Also, like I'll have like a 1 hour session. I'll pee maybe 6 times in an hour without drinking water, just because it's just a way of flushing out toxins, you know, sweating as well. But generally, because now I can control it, I'll generally either burp or yawn, like now I was sneezing. But for anyone there who wants to clear energy, exercise is very good. Moving with the intention of moving energy through the body as well. Kundalini yoga is a really good practice to help you with understanding the energy. Qigong, any of those kind of like martial arts as well. Just be mindful that the Kundalini yoga can be a little bit ungrounding. So I would combine it, if you want, with some more embodying exercise, whether it's like cardio, weight training, or anything like that. Yoga in general is very good for alignment. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's very grounding in itself. So that would be a good way to clear. Crying is a good way to clear, you know, clearing emotions in that way. Shouting, not at someone, but if you want to shout, you know, go stand somewhere and just shout and let it go and let it out. I mean, I've done that in the car many times by myself, like driving, like shouting to clear energy and release it, you know. So yeah, so just know that it needs to be transmuted and moved through, but also, you know, sending love and compassion to yourself, working with journaling, writing things down, then burning the paper, maybe doing like little rituals for yourself. That'll definitely also help.
And do you find that once it starts, it happens quite organically and automatically, like just throughout the day?
For me or for someone in general?
Generally.
most people are not in a vibrational frequency where their system is clear. So if there's blockages in the chakras, you're going to struggle to clear, because there'll be blockages. I don't know, maybe you're not speaking your truth, your throat is blocked. Maybe you're not dealing with your emotions, your solar plexus is blocked, you know. So for you to be able to properly clear, the toroidal fields needs to flow freely. So the energy needs to come up from the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart, the third eye, the crown, and it needs to be able to flow. So I would say work on clearing your system first and releasing blockages and letting go of what doesn't serve you and being in your truth and being in your heart center. And then the clearing will be easier. You cannot go anywhere up here if you're not grounded down here. And that's the problem right now in the community. Everyone's opening up and channeling and receiving this information, but they're not embodied. They're not grounded. They're not anchored. And I know, because I was there, it was the same for me. Like, I really struggled. The first year my channel opened, like, I actually was still smoking tobacco. I was smoking organic, but I was still smoking tobacco to help me ground my physical body, because I was up there so much that I was really struggling to ground and to embody in the now. So I think focus on the grounding, I would say, and then everything else is going to open up more, because if you're not grounded, then you can still, like, you're receiving things here, but you're not anchoring them, you're not embodying them. So it's a little bit useless. You're not really going anywhere. It's almost like you're trying to grab things out of thin air. You're trying to, you know what I mean? But when you're grounded and embodied in here and in the now, because you chose to be here, you chose to have the human experience. So be present in the human experience, and then from there, rise up and go and work in these higher realms.
Yeah, no, I love that. Be grounded here first, be present here in the human experience, and then you can go from there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. That's really helpful. So, do you want to pull through some codes and do some light language?
Yeah. So you
Okay.
can start by closing your eyes and anchoring into your body as you find a comfortable breathing rhythm. With every inhale, you breathe in light. With every exhale, you release all that no longer serves you. And as we call on the Archangelic Collective, Michael to the south, Uriel to the north, Raphael to the east, Gabriel to the west, we call on Archangel Metatron with his blue cloak of protection from above, and Sandalphon to seal the grid from below, as we call on our higher selves, our spirit guides, anyone else who wishes to be present for the greatest and highest good. You're welcome in the space. Naya tereo kuroi shina takara trietaka. Treino tukura sera siro aishina takai echiro atiet marai. Maria tikarai asiro narati aishe akiara takra tukura isiera takra. Nria tria ishira takri aisiro tukura ishirata. These are some gentle heart opening codes. Nrayo tukua isira ishinare atiat kiero atikaret umra sira tira sira takra. Triatik urra siaria ishina takan riate uro ia ishina takiera takra. Nriatreo tukuare asiera taki. Neyate. Okay, opening systems, opening, activating as we call in more light, divine rays coming in, anchoring, clean, releasing. Okay, I'm clearing the solar plexus now. Kia tokuro ishira takra trieta kiera takra. Nraya tera ishiro tokumnara ishiro tokura ishira tiat kiera chira takrena takra. Letting go. Clearing, releasing, decoding, detangling, removing. It's going to help with family cords as well, just to like kind of loosen up. If there's any ancestral wounds, clearing now, letting go, old programming, letting go, clearing, releasing, 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 releasing. Naya te carroto cura y si ara ishenai tania na ratu cura sira takieta kiena taka. Ntaya te saro atiat kiera te krato kumra sira taraya treate isheno toko. Nreo tokura isietara nran ria isherati atie tukuna ishena yataka. Te areatsero. Shirataka, Taya Terakrik, Kotukoroa Sie, Sana Yataka, Trea Treo Tokora Yasiratakri, Nara Yatare, Trea Tekietuk Umra Isietakre, Treina Takrakt, Korotrea, Sira Ishiratakri, Takras, Siratakras is going to help with clearing a little bit of overthinking and moving up to the higher chakras now. Releasing, 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 releasing. Releasing, 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 letting go, 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 opening, opening, opening. 2 more light, divine rays coming in, anchoring, 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 rainbow rays, crystal rays, activating, activating, attuning, 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 attuning. 2 more light, upgrading, upgrading, upgrading systems. Na 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 Shiratakaisia. Ndaisie takaria zero atekiera takri etekumra siera takra. Treo tukura ishen ataka ria trea isiero atekana ishen marai tekarai. Takarai takarai takara yasiera taka. Takara yetukuara sierata. Treino roa kria tekara ye shetkat kur maratria siek anorotrukura isietakra. Trea trea tek kotkoroa sietanai rea trei ateo tokua ishera tietari. Nre otokora rea ro ra ria sietaka. Ntaya taka kra kiesayo shenarate karo asierate krio yo 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 yo. Nai yo 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 nai yo 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 nai arai seraya takra. Triate caro atsera ishmate cara yasero atieta criate cre otokoro yasiena takra. Treina treatic urra sara trein matakra zero akira tre atzero akira takra. Nreo yo yo nararara nararara yo na quiero atia sieta kan maratieta cre. Tre otruk araisiera troatiat kiera ishero atiat kiesara yate kara yasiero narmaratrieta kri nre orukra kriatek urra sasiesnaia niara na takiera siesa sie nara tak uruk irasik urratak aruk na erosik arasik rak iruk urak rik arak erosik rat ringan it urrataka rosit narak it uyatak arrasierut kuk eroasiet na raisit urrat anmarasik uruk raya sit re sit ra naisha tietara tietuk maya ishie nara tieturo krieta kara sierataka te naratrik arosiek arayatera yasiero atekre asiet nai atriate karo aisheratakra nram rietu kria seya trieta raya shenaratakra nae ananaishia. Dara trea sera tietuko akiera ta crea te quiero toko. Tai shana eteina ishena tatai shena tatai ataka. Tara tria isieso atiana tiania takara ichera ikie. As we anchor back into the body. And ground back into the physical vessel. Anchoring back into the now, into the moment. Whenever we're ready, you can gently open our eyes. I channeled quite a bit of technology. And then I did heart opening, solar plexus, throat a little bit, higher chakras, overthinking, peripheral. Some codes of self-empowerment came through, self-love. Yeah, so there was quite a bit that came through. Yeah, you'll be clearing and releasing for a few hours. Can take up to 3 weeks for full integration. And then just being mindful and aware that they might bring old things to the surface and come up. It's a recalibration, you know, of the system. They bypass the conscious mind. They work directly on the energy field. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being here today and for sharing.
Sure. Shall I just maybe tell where people can find me, like on my website?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
So my website is alteolukreția.com, and then my Instagram is Light Codes by ALA, which is my initials. I do have quite a lot of offerings. If you guys are interested, through my website, I offer one-to-one work. I do light language, energy clearing, Akashic clearing, past life clearings. I also do take people through programs. So I'll do like 6-month programs, 6-week programs. I train light workers to do what I do as well. So if you want to learn to channel, I have master classes on channeling or how to channel light language. I teach that as well. I also have collective healings that I do monthly, which is like what I offer for a very reasonable price. It's $12, 45 minutes of channeled light language. So that's if you want to take something that I do collectively. As well. And then I've got a lot of like masterclasses and workshops all up on my website, on like how to start your spiritual business, how to release attachments, how to open your third eye, how to integrate psychic attacks, and things like that. And then I'm launching, well, it's already on my website, but I'm launching a day retreat, basically in person, live. I will have in-person work. If any of you guys are in Europe, I will be doing in-person work in November and December in Paris and in Milano. So that's what it'll be. I'm thinking of coming to London. Maybe, let's see if it aligns. I did set the intention out, so I might have a workshop in London as well. But for now, I've just got confirmed Milan and Paris. So that'll be November and December of this year. And yeah, and then I've got an in-person, a live day retreat in July on my website as well. And that's quite exciting for you guys. But yeah, I have a lot of free content as well. So if you go on I'm sure they'll leave my detail links. If you go on my Instagram, I release daily free content, whether it's light language, healing, reels, images, or things like that. So yeah.